Good morning. This is a virtual PBX admin training. The training lasts approximately 1 hour. We do record these trainings, so you can come back if you can't stay for the whole time, as well as share the link with other people who may need to be admins on your account. You'll see some links in the show notes. I refer to several of these during the course of the training. Feel free to peruse those at your leisure, and feel free to make use of the chat feature within YouTube to ask questions about a feature as I go over it. With that being out of the way, let's go ahead and jump in. On your display here, you see our dash login page. This is at dash.virtualpbx.com. To get logged in, we need 3 pieces of information. Right? The first is your username. That's your email address, and this should be in all lowercase letters. Your password, which is case sensitive and should have been emailed to you. And then your account name, which is typically your organization name, your business name, could be your own name. Right? And then you would click on sign in. Now, if for some reason you can't sign in, just above that sign in bar on the right hand side here, we have a forgot your info link. You can click on that. You need to fill out this form. So first, we need your email address again. And then we need one of these 2 following pieces of information, right? So either the account name or the phone number on account, a phone number on the account, excuse me. Right? That's one of your customer-facing phone numbers. So fill out this form, click on reset password, and then you'll get an email. There'll be a link in the body of the email that you click on, gets you logged into your user page to change your password. Now, once you do that, it's going to log you back out. And so then you type in that new password. You have the option here to click on Remember Me, and then click on Sign In. There we go. Let it load up here. Now, up here at the top of the page, you have your name. You can click on your name at any time. That gets you to your user account page. So this is where you would change your password, for example. You can also change your time zone and your language for your user, as well as display. Now, as a system admin, you also have access to this section over here on the left, which is your account level settings. Most common things changed are the technical contacts, as well as the time zone and language for the entire account. Now, the language is the display language of these web pages when you log in. Add-ons. As system admins, you can enable add-ons that may be available to your account. These add additional features to your account without having to talk to our services team. You would click enable next to any that you want to enable. If there's an associated fee, there'll be a pop-up warning you about what that monthly fee would be. You have to confirm that before you can continue. Otherwise, you just cancel and you won't have the add-on. You can add on things like the virtual text forward that you see here, auto attendance, dynamic caller ID, and advanced reporting. Down here, you have the billing portal. And this link here is how you go to the billing portal itself. That's where you would access your credit card information so you can update your payment methods, see previous invoices. Any system admin can also click on cancel account and go through the cancellation process. This will obviously cancel the account. It would close it out at the end of the current billing cycle. So you can keep using it up until that time, at which point the account would be canceled and you would get your final bill. And then when you're done up here, click on the close box at the top right. To the right of your name, you have a D&D toggle for do not disturb. Right now, mine is active, so I'm not receiving calls. If I click on it again, it'll be mostly black, meaning calls will come through. Little phone icon. This opens up a new tab, takes you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. If you have a web phone device on your user, You use your Dash login information to log into this page, and allows you to use Chrome or Firefox on a computer to make and receive calls. So it does count as a VoIP phone. Little chat bubble here opens up a new tab and takes you to virtualtext.app. So this is if you're making use of our virtual text feature. It has its own login information, but you would log in and you can make use of texting there. Little question mark icon here. This opens up a chat window at the bottom right of your browser, so you can speak to our support team and they can help you with any features that you're working with. The three horizontal line icon here, that's the menu icon, sometimes referred to as the menu icon. This gets to other Dash features, which we'll get to at the very end. And then the little arrow to the right icon is your logout. Now down here in the center, I've got total users. I have 4 people on my account. Adding users typically will increase your bill, so just be aware of that. All right, so I'm paying for all 4 of these people. Then I have total devices and a breakdown of the kinds of devices being used. Any VoIP device potentially can increase your bill, right? Depends on your plan. So that includes soft phone, web phone, or the SIP phone. Right? SIP phone is a piece of hardware. Physical phone sits on your desk. Unregistered devices, I have 1. That means I've turned 1 device off in my dashboard here. If it's a VoIP device, I would still be, still may be being charged for it though. Total numbers, I have 16 phone numbers. Your account includes at least 1 phone number as part of your monthly plan price. That would be your main number. Generally speaking, for most of our plans, for each user you have, you're granted an additional 1 local phone number. Anything beyond that, you'd be billed on a per number basis every month. That's the base price is $4.99. You see I have a breakdown here. First is assigned numbers and spare numbers, right? Assigned numbers, it's in use, right? Someone can dial a number and expect to speak to someone or leave a voicemail, join a conference, or send a fax. Spare number counts towards my allotment. I'm just not currently using it. Other breakdown I have here is USDID and US toll-free. US toll-free is actually US Canada toll-free, right? 800 number, 888, all the way down to 833. USDID just means a US local number, i.e. if you have a phone number in, say, San Jose, California, USDID. If you want an international phone number on your account, you can do so. You want to email our porting team, and that's porting at virtualpbx.com. They need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a number in. They'll let you know if that's available and what, if any, other requirements that country requires. Over here to the top right, we have our main number box. I have these 4 numbers. These all act the same way. They're going to the same spot on my system. They have the same ingredient. Conference number, you can have multiple conference room numbers. They're going to the same set of conference rooms. The fax box number, you can have the 1 main fax box number, and this is your inbound fax number. It also allows you to have a fax box that you can edit, which we'll get into later. The company directory, there's 2 links here, right? CSV and soft phone. CSV is just that. It's a CSV file, shows your staff members, their names, their email addresses, their extension numbers, their devices. The soft phone file is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone. So if you're using our soft phone app on a Mac or Windows PC, you can download this file and then upload it to your VirtualPBX soft phone app. It's going to show your other staff members who have the VirtualPBX soft phone as contacts within your soft phone app, and you can tell if they're on a call or not with their soft phone. VirtualPBX Store opens up a new link or new tab, takes you to store.virtualpbx where you would order things like a VoIP phone. The account realm, every account has its own account realm. It's used for part of faxing. It's also a part of third-party soft phone preparations. Right, up here towards the top again, where it says VPBX New Hire Sandbox, this blue bar. First up, we have caller ID. This pull down lets you select one of your main numbers, and that becomes your default number for your VoIP phones, for instance, right? So if you went, whatever, this 775 number becomes my default number for my VoIP phones when they make an outbound call. Hold music. this lets you upload a .wav or .mp3 file that will play back after a call has reached one of your staff members and they have pressed hold on their VoIP phone. The file will play back. The system will let you upload, again, a .wav or .mp3 file up to 1 megabyte in size. Generally speaking, I recommend recording in mono just to give you a longer duration file, which can be up to, say, a 1 megabyte MP3 can be up to 5 minutes. So you can use the pull down to find any existing files that are on the account. Otherwise, click on the browse button to find a file on your computer, click the up arrow icon, and then save changes. Now, hours is part of main number, but I like getting some other things set up before we go into that. So over here on the left, we're going to click on users. Takes me to my user page. The people with the blue suit icon, these are my system admins, right? They can make all the changes we're talking about. Dante here, you see he's a great person. He's just a standard user. He has very limited access. Up here at the top, you click on add users to add more people to your account. Again, this likely increases your bill. You fill out the form, right? First name, last name. The email address used for login, this is how the system communicates with your staff people, right? In terms of like password resets, voicemail notifications, they go to this email address. This email address has to be unique for each user. Password, create a password for the user, and then create a main extension number for the user. Now, new systems start off with extension 1000, so it's gonna offer you the next one as starting with 1000, but you can change that to whatever you wish. By default, the system will create a new voicemail box for this user. We recommend you leave that checked. For instance, if you create a user and add a VoIP phone that gets registered, the staff member can pick up that VoIP phone, dial *98 and press call. That logs them directly into the voicemail box that was just created for them. That first time they log in, the system will prompt them to create a voicemail box PIN number and then walk them through creating their voicemail box greeting. They can also go through the personal option to record their name, which is what the system uses for the user directory. Speaking of the user directory, here's your option here to include that user in the user directory. This is something you can change later. You have an option here to send emails to an alternate address. So if you want those password resets or voicemail notifications to go to an email that's different than the one that's used to log in with, put a check mark here, enter that different email address in this box. You can change that later. And then here, you have the option here to send credentials to the user, which I generally recommend. So that way, when you click on create user or create user and add another, this person gets an email welcoming them to their VirtualPBX account, as well as some basic use. And it shows their login information. All right, once a user is created, you can click on their name. It's going to expand out the box here. You can always change their name if you need to. Here is where you would change their credentials, right? So their email or their password. You also have the option here to send them the password reset so they can change the password themselves. This is your option to change their voicemail box PIN number, right? So if you need to access their voicemail over the phone, for instance. Here's your option to send emails to an alternate address. Here's your option to include them in the user directory or not. Over here, little person icon. This pull down allows you to change a user into an admin or admin to a user. Little clock icon. This is the time zone for that user, right? So that way they have the correct time zone, so that way their voicemail timestamps are correct. Little flag icon here. This allows you to change the display language for this user, right? So that way you have English, French, German, or Russian. Bring in timeout. By default, is 20 seconds. That's plenty of time for calls to a landline or a VoIP phone. If you have someone who's only using a cell phone, you'd want to put this up to 30 seconds. And then any changes, you click on Save Changes at the bottom. Extension box, you can add additional extensions to a user if you want to. Phone number box, users, you can add a phone number directly to a user. Just bear in mind that when you do so, that phone number is available 24/7. It's never off. You have your option here of buy numbers or add from spare. So spare numbers is how you use one of your spare numbers, right? To make use of it. By numbers is how you add new numbers to the account. So adding for spare, when you click on it, it'll show you the available numbers. You click on the box in front of it, you click on add selected number, click on save changes. Right? If I don't click on save changes, it doesn't get added here. It's still in my spare numbers. By numbers, you have your options of local and toll-free. Toll-free, choose the prefix, click on search. It will display a list of phone numbers that are available. This sometimes can take a little time. Just click add, and you can add multiple numbers until you're done. Now, at this point, you haven't reserved the number, right? Once you scroll down here and click on by numbers, that's when you're actually adding it to the account. Right now, the system's verifying that the number is truly available, and now it's adding it to this user on the account. Now, I still have to click Save Changes if I want it to stay here. All right, local numbers, you need to know the area code that you want a number in. And then you would do a search, and it'll display a list of numbers that are available. Now, it's possible for any area code, including the toll-free prefixes, that you'll get a warning message that there's nothing currently available. If that happens, especially for a local number, you want to go back to search, but you're going to want to use your favorite search engine and do a search for area codes, in this case, 310 overlay. You'll be told that 424 is the overlay, and then you'll be given a list of, should be able to find a list of numbers there. Same process beyond that. You click add, click on by numbers. This is adding a new number to your account. And we're waiting for it to get activated here. And now it's here. You have a little gear icon for any phone number. You can update the caller ID. So first up is outbound caller ID name. In the box to the right, you can enter up to 15 characters. It counts spaces as part of that 15. This will only work with the local phone number. It will not work with toll-free numbers. Even for local numbers, basically, when you make an outbound call, right, this is information we transmit out from your VoIP phones, saying, hey, we're saying this number and this text. Not every carrier supports this feature. So if a call routes through one of them, it's obviously not going to reach your destination. That last carrier has final say about what shows up on the phones on their network. This is especially true for when you call a cell phone. The cell phone providers typically are charging their subscribers an additional monthly fee to have that CNAM information show up. So just be aware of that. Often when you call a cell phone, they're only going to get your number, not the company name. Inbound CNAM, if you turn this on, this means it's just the system will pass through any presented inbound CNAM information to your staff members' phones. E911, each phone number can have its own E911 address. That way, you can assign that phone number to a specific VoIP phone for the purposes of 911 only. Right? So Bob works from home. You want to make sure his 911 address is his home address versus your corporate headquarters. Prepend is a VoIP phone feature. This allows you to put text that shows up in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones. Right? Gives them an idea what the call might be about. Next up, we have devices. Here is where you can add devices. I'm just going to cover a few of them. The first is a SIP phone. This is that piece of hardware. Right? You have these manufacturers to choose from. Some have a lot of models. Some have like a dozen. Right? Choose the make and model of the phone you want to work with. Give it a name, and then enter the MAC address. The MAC address is typically a sticker on the back of the phone. If the phone's plugged in, you can also go under its like basic settings or status, and you should be able to get the MAC address. And then you would click on Create Device. Right? And then you would click on Save Changes here. Now, after you do that, you would click on this box again to expand it out. Click on the device you just added. Then you want to go to the Advanced section here and then click on Miscellaneous. Where it says Allow Reprovision, you want to click Unlock. you'll get a little green and white message saying it's been unlocked. Click on Save Changes here, and then click on Save Changes here. Now, within our dashboard, you're done, right? You've just told the system, hey, I'm going to get this phone ready to work, right? Get it provisioned. In the show notes, you want to click on the auto provisioning phones document. That document has screenshots for these various manufacturers, the proper syntax, and where to go or where to add the URL to the phone so that way it can get its config file. Once it gets the config file, it's going to reboot a couple of times, and then it would show up as a green device on your dashboard. Another common thing that people add is a cell phone or a landline. Right? You give it a name, and then in the number field here to the right, you put +1 area coded number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses. Click on Create Device. Click on Save Changes. I'm going to click on this device here, and you see this is what it looks like. If we go to the advanced options, this is the default setup for a new cell phone or landline. So when we send a call to a cell phone, right, when you pick up that call, the first thing you'll hear is, this is a forwarded call, please press 1. Right? When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're here, yes, you want to take the call. If you're working with an automated answering service to say, answer your calls for your after hours, they likely gave you a phone number, say, hey, just send calls to this number. In your Dash account, you would add that as a cell phone or landline. But what you want to do is come to this advanced section here, and where it says allow use of cell phone's voicemail, right? Put a check mark here, and then save changes. So now when we send the calls to that phone number, there's no message about a forwarded call or pressing 1. We just hear that, wait for that pickup tone, and we connect the call, right? So your automated answering service is happy. If you do this on your cell phone, right? If your cell phone voicemail picks up, that inbound caller can end up on your personal cell phone's voicemail. Some people want that, some people don't. Right? And then probably the most important device to show is the soft phone. So on the user's page, this is the only place you can add the VirtualPBX soft phone. Right. So whenever you add a soft phone or a web phone, you'll get this warning message. Please make sure you read it at least once. When you close it, a big box will show up here. Down at the bottom, below it says View Configuration File, it says Use third-party application. Click on that, and now it says Use VirtualPBX application. So now you just need to give it a name. Right? You click on Create Device, and then you click on Save Changes. Once you click on Save Changes, Dante here would get an email saying his VirtualPBX soft phone is ready. In that email, or in the body of the email, he would get his username and password to log in, as well as download links so he can download the app to his relevant device. All right, there are plenty of user features here, so I would recommend going through our support pages if there's specific ones that interest you that I don't cover. Just for the interest of time, I'm only covering a few of these. First up is Follow Me. So this is for users with multiple devices. Right now, since I don't have it enabled, and I have 3 devices on this user, when a call gets offered to this user, all 3 of his devices ring at the same time. Right? If I don't want that, then I would come here, I would enable it, and now I have to tell the system which phones to make use of. Right? So I uncheck the ones I want to use, and then I can click and drag this green bar to give them a ring time. And then I can click Save Changes. Alternatively, up here on the top, I have timestamps. This last one is you can edit. So I can change it to say 90 seconds. I can also click it Distribute. So now I'm equalizing out between these 2 devices. Right? So it always offers it to my soft phone here first, then my web phone. I can click and drag and click Distribute, and now it's going to my web phone first. Right, now this is something a system admin has to set up, not the user. So you have to have some feedback with them. One thing to know about the Follow Me settings, if this user is added to a group, which we'll be getting to shortly, calls from the group ignore the Follow Me setting. Right, so it will ring all 3 devices. Voicemail box, right? This is enabled on the user. These voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they're full and cannot hold any more. Now, by default, we also attach an MP3 file to that email notification so that you can listen to the voicemail message right from your email. You can also choose to delete the messages after that email is sent out, so that way the voicemail box doesn't get full. Or if people are good about checking their voicemails, they can check them over the phone and delete them that way. They can also delete them in the user portal, which we'll get to later. All right, caller ID number. If you enable this feature is only good for users that you assigned a phone number to. And then you can enable this feature so that way that phone number becomes their outbound caller ID from their VoIP phones. Fax box allows you to add an individual fax box to the user. Best practice is to assign a phone number to this fax box so they can send and receive, but generally speaking, not used very often. Conference bridge, you enable this for any user that you want to be able to host or moderate a conference. You have to have a conference room number first before you can enable that feature though. Call forwarding, this would only be necessary for users with just a VoIP phone, right? If you have a user that has a VoIP phone and a cell phone as their devices, they don't need call forwarding because you're already forwarding to the cell phone. Customize call recording, if you want to make use of call recording, this is the feature to go through. Music on hold, you can have users have their own hold music if you want them to, but you don't need to since you have that one from the dashboard page. Hot desking is a VoIP phone feature. This is a hybrid scheduling or shared office space. Basically allows you to log into a specific phone that you're sitting at to get calls where you're sitting. And then at the end of the day, you log out of the phone, and then the next time you come to the office, you can log into the phone that you sit at again. But again, for more details, look at the support pages. Next up, we have groups, referred to as hunt groups or ring groups, departments. Right? These are people who answer calls about a similar topic. Up here at the top, you click on Add Group. You need to give it a name. You need to give it an extension number, and then you click and drag your staff members that you want to be in the group, and then click on Create Group. Once a group is created, click on the name. You can change the name. The group call attempts is how many times the system will offer an inbound call to the members of the groups. Little arrows here at the far right that you can increase or decrease that. Here's your option to delete a group. Otherwise, click on Save Changes. Members box basically shows your staff members that are assigned to the group and how you're offering to them or offering calls to them. This is blast ringing or ring all, right? So whoever picks up the call first gets it. I can click distribute, right? So now it's always going in this order. Calls to a group, do not ignore a person if they're on a call, right? So Dante here's first. If he's on a call and a second call comes into the group, the system still offers the call to him first, right? So that second caller has to wait 40 seconds before it's offered to David. Now, these are sliders, so you can adjust it so that second caller or third caller don't have to wait as long. You also have the option here to add people. The total ring time in the group is defaults to 200 seconds, excuse me, but you can adjust that, or sorry, set defaults to 120 seconds. If you need to remove people, you click on remove. Any changes you make, click on save changes. Extension box, you can have multiple extension numbers on a group. Just click on add extension and add the extension number. Phone numbers, just like on users, you can add phone numbers directly to a group. And just like on users, this phone number does not have hours of operation. It's available 24/7. Group features, first up is ringback. This is, instead of having that ringing sound being sent back to your inbound caller, you can instead replace it with a media file. A .wav, .mp3, choose upload, click browse to find the file, up to 1 megabyte in size. Now, the system will not loop the file for you. So you want to make sure the total time of the file that you put in here matches or exceeds the ring time of the group. Right? Default for a group is 120 seconds, so make sure your file is at least 120 seconds. Next action, if people don't pick up, what do you want the system to do with the call? Right, click to enable, and then choose someplace on your system to send the call. Right, voicemail box, another group, specific user, etc. And then click on Save Changes. Allow call forward and caller ID, you can look into the show notes. They're not really used by most people. All right, next up, we'll go over here to main number. Your main company numbers, these are your main numbers that people dial by default. You can unassign if you don't want to use that number as a main number anymore, and that means it puts it into a spare number status, so not deleted from the account. You get the little gear icon here, so you can update the caller ID, E911, or PPEND. You can always add numbers either by buying new ones, right? So add new numbers, or getting spare numbers and making use of them here. Office hours strategy, 24-hour open office. That's what you default for new accounts. But most people choose custom office hours. And if you do so for each day of the week that you're open, put a check mark in front of that day, and then set your open hours in 24-hour or military time. You also have the option here to be closed for lunch at the same time every day. And then you would set your lunch hours in that 24-hour or military time, and then click on Save Changes when you've done so. Office holidays, if you're closed for holidays, put a check mark here. And then over here on the right, you have your options here for single day, date range, or advanced. Each one creates a new row. You give the row a name, right? Single day, Christmas Day, give it a month and a date, save changes. Date range, holiday, right? Start date, end date, save changes. Advanced, I have here for Memorial Day, right? So gave it a name. I choose the month. The second pull down, you have first through fifth as well as last, and then the day of the week. And then save changes. If you need to remove a holiday, just click on the little trash icon and then save changes. Incoming call handling. So for my main numbers, how do I want the system to handle calls during my open hours, during my after hours, or during my holidays? If I chose this system to be closed during lunch, I would have another tab for lunch hours as well. So during my open hours here, I have calls going to my virtual receptionist. This is a link here that I can click on. It's going to open up a big old box. Main menu. These are what people press on their phone to navigate through my phone system. You click on Add Route to give yourself more options. You can have 0 through 9, the star key, and the default action. Now, then you have the greetings. This is where you tell this, say thank you for calling, any kind of specials, but you mostly want to give direction about the main menu options that you set. The system is not going to map this for you, right? So you have to be explicit in your greeting about what is what. Text to speech, it's just that you type in a greeting here, click update, save, and save changes, and it's there. It's a computerized robotic voice. You can have up to 250 characters here, not words. The system names the file for you. So if you make use of this, you want to use the greetings tab to rename them, so that way you can sort them out later if you have to make use of them several times or sell for different versions. You can upload your own file, .wave.mp3. Click on the choose your file, click update, save, and save changes. Choose from an existing recording. This pull down will show your existing files, and that includes like voicemail greetings as well as ringback files. So make sure you use names that you can recognize easily. You can record it over the phone. By default, the system wants you to use a VoIP phone that's registered to this account. It's a security feature. If you don't want to do that, or you can't, then down here under settings, where it says allow outside recording, you want to click that on. Then you can use any cell phone or landline to call in. We do recommend once you're done changing your main greeting to change that back to off. So In either case, you would call your main number. When you hear the existing main greeting play, you enter this PIN number. This PIN number is specific to this time of day, i.e. it only works during my open hours. It will then walk you through recording the greeting over the phone. Since there's a greeting in place, it's going to overwrite the content of the main greeting that's already there, default greeting we provide for you. And it's just going to have whatever you recorded. And that's important because when it comes to holiday times, you don't want to rush and then potentially lose your normal main greeting. There's a way around that, though, which we'll get to later. Professional recording services. When you click order, this opens up a new tab. It goes to Snap Recordings, a separate company. And you can order professionally done greeting from them. They'll email you the file so you can just upload it here. All right, settings. Number of retries on misdial. This is how many times the inbound caller can make a mistake, right? So they have one retry, that means they have 2 attempts. Dialing timeout, this is how much time the system listens for additional button presses, right? i.e. they're trying to enter an extension number. We already covered allow outside recording. By default, allow dialing extensions is on, and this just means if someone enters a valid extension number, the system will transfer the call. Right? If I turn this off, that means they can only press the menu options. Suppress the playing invalid entry message. So if someone keeps making a mistake, after that last attempt, the system will say, we did not recognize your entry. If there's a default action, it will just simply transfer the caller to that default action. If there's not, it will say goodbye. Any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or your settings, click on Save here at the bottom. When you get back to the incoming call handling, click on Save Changes. Oops. So for my after hours, I'm using the second option, which is the live operator answer option. This first pull down, you can select something on your system, a user, a group, a call queue, a device, right? i.e. the idea is you're trying to offer the call to someone first. If they can't answer it, then you send it to the virtual receptionist. In this case, my after hours virtual receptionist. So I have different menu options and likely a different greeting. And then for holidays, I'm using this third option where I'm saying, hey, don't bother to ring anything and go to this voicemail box. Now, this first pull down, you can select anything on your system, right? So a user, a group device, right? So if you have someone who's like on call for the holidays, you would select their user, for instance, right? If they're not able to pick up, and then whatever voicemail box you want to select, and then save changes. Main conference room number, you can have multiple, right? Just add or buy new. You also can do a custom text-to-speech greeting if you want to. You would just click enable and type in the greeting here. Even if you leave this disabled, when you call your conference room number, the system will say welcome to the conference and then prompt you to enter the conference room number and PIN number. The main fax box number, you can have one main fax box number, excuse me. Once you have that, you can edit the fax box. The inbound fax notification, designed to put an email address in the box here to the right. And that means anytime a fax comes through, they get an email saying, hey, you have a new fax. There'll be a PDF attachment. Now, someone dials your fax box number, hears fax tones and hangs up. This person still gets an email saying there was a failed fax attempt. Email permissions, you can either put an email address in the box to the right, or you can put your company email domain, right? So anyone at VirtualPBX, they can send a fax out from this account, even if they're not a user on this account. In terms of sending a fax, it's via email. So create an email like you normally do. In the subject, in the to field, you put the phone number, right? +1 area coded number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses. Then the @ symbol, and then your account realm. And then you need to attach a PDF or TIFF file. The system does not look at the subject line. It does not send anything from the body of the email. It's only going to look at the to field, the from field, and the attachment. One attachment per email, one phone number per email. Right? You don't want to try to add multiple phone numbers at once. And make sure you don't have any like signature files as part of your email. All right, auto attendance, this is an add-on, plan specific feature. This is basically used for if you have multiple businesses on the same account, or if you want to do something called submenuing, right? i.e. one for English, two for Spanish. Click on here, give it a name, give it an extension number, click on Create Auto Attendant. But beyond that, once an auto attendant is created, it starts off as unavailable in main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant. You can click on this toggle, and now it's a submenu option. Beyond that, when you click on the little wrench icon here, assuming it loads, here you go. You see that it has a virtual receptionist, it has office hours, which would match what we set up under the main number. Devices, this shows your devices on the account. Green means it's registered, so we can send calls to it. Red means it's not. Again, for the VirtualPBX soft phone, you have to add that directly to a user, and which is actually what we recommend for all devices. You just add it to the user. This is just so you can do a quick snapshot of what's going on with your devices. So like if I had a bunch of like Yealing phones and they're all showing up red, I would question what's going on with my network first, right? Because it'd be weird for all of them to be red. Now, if I have people working remotely, then that's a different story. Greetings tab, up here, you can upload new greetings, right? Just give it a name, choose the file, click on Create Greeting, and it uploads it here so it's available for you to add anywhere on the account. Here's the name of a file, source TTS, text-to-speech. Upload means it was uploaded. Recording means it was recorded over the phone. You can play back the file directly in your browser. You can also download the file. This is what I recommend to do with your typical main greeting. So you have a backup copy locally. You can even re-upload it here so that way you can just label it as backup main. That way you always have two copies and you don't have to worry about it being replaced accidentally. The little wrench icon here, this allows you to change the name of a file or get rid of it. Numbers starts off on your numbers in use, but the main thing we want to go here to is spare numbers, and this is where you port a number, right? So you're moving a number from say AT&T to VirtualPBX. Click on port and you start the process. You definitely want to look in the show notes at the support pages, do a search for porting, because I can't go through all the screens here, just because it actually wants me to port a number. But the screenshots in the documentation will be much easier to follow along. All right, voicemail boxes shows your voicemail boxes on the account. Up here at the top, you can create your own voicemail boxes, right, for use with your groups, for instance. Give it a name, voicemail box number, and PIN number. Click on Create Voicemail Box. Once a voicemail box is created, you can click on the little wrench icon here. Now, voicemail box number is not the same as an extension number, right? So if someone calls your main number and tries to enter, or calls my main number and enters 3333, they're not getting to this voicemail box. So it's something to be aware of. This is what I would need, though, to call into my voicemail box to listen to the message, right? Or if I'm just getting it set up to record the greeting. Under Advanced, I can upload a media file to play as a voicemail box greeting. I can use this pull down to choose from existing files or upload, right? .wave.mp3. The temporary file, this is for that out of office or vacation message. If you have two files selected here, one in media, one in temporary, only the temporary plays, right? The media file won't play again until you set temporary back to none. Recipients, each user voicemail box, has a built-in recipient, right? That email address used for login. But any voicemail box, you can come here, click on Add Recipient, and add additional email addresses. Keep clicking Add until you're done, and then save changes, right? Each person or each email address gets a copy of that voicemail message. Options, once you have a media file in place and recipients, go ahead and click on Already Set Up. You would need to uncheck this if you want to record a greeting over the phone. and then you want to make sure that you have the attached messages to email. In this case, this is my support voicemail box, so I never want it to get full. So that's why I've opted to have delete after notification enabled here. All right, virtual text forward. This allows you to have phone numbers accept inbound text messages and then forwards them to like an email address, typically speaking. This is not for two-way communication. Again, I'm going to refer to the show notes. Virtual extensions. This is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to add additional extension numbers without adding users. Now, these extensions can only have one device. You cannot add a VirtualPBX soft phone to this because it doesn't have an email address to send the login credentials to. Virtual extensions cannot be members of a group or a queue because they're not users. Now, this virtual extension number is accessible from the main menu, right? If I call into my main number, I can dial this extension and reach this person, most likely. Likewise, I can make it a menu option from the virtual receptionist. All right, feature code, call logs. This shows your call history on the account. You have today, this week, this month, and custom. You can always download the file to CSV, so if you're good with spreadsheets, you'll get some more out of it. The custom, you can go back in time. The system will let you go back up to 12 months. If you need to go further than back, you need to talk to our support team. They have to escalate that up to our engineers, but even then, they can only go back up to 18 months. So if you need your call log data for any kind of compliance reasons, you'd probably want to do this on a monthly basis. Little fire extinguisher icon here. This creates an email for you, so it sends it to our support team with the technical details. Please give them some context about why you're sending it in. Feature codes. These are ways for your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phones. You can also find this in the support pages. You can just look up feature codes, or you can look up the phone commands cheat sheet, which will also have the context help. All right, up here at the top, the menu icon, blacklists. This is where you would block your phone numbers from reaching your staff members. Basically, you would edit the list, add the +1 area code and number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses. Going to go ahead and refer to, again, this support pages where you can see screenshots about how to get that set up. Call recording. This is where you see your call recordings. This account is set up with AWS, so I'm seeing an AWS format. If you use the standard call recording, this would open up a new tab and get you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. Uses your Dash login and get logged in, but that's where you would see them. Now, for AWS setup, you definitely want to go to the support pages because you need to get into AWS, get the bucket information, the secure key, etc., that you would add here in the configuration. Number manager, this just takes you back to your spare number page. I'm going to keep changing the order here. So voicemails, this lets you get to any voicemail box on the account, i.e. if someone's reporting a voicemail box is full, you can get to it. So you can view what's there. When you put a check mark in front of the message as an admin, you can move it to a different voicemail box or simply change its status. All right, the AWS integration, this is where you do the configuration. Right, so we need the access key, secret access key, and bucket, which you get from AWS. Reports, this opens up a new tab and takes you to reports.virtualpbx.com, which has its own login information. In the show notes, you'll see the advanced reporting demo. Take a look at that, but it allows you to create your own reports. And they're much more detailed than the call log. Call center, This opens up a new tab, takes you to callcenter.virtualpbx.com. This is your dash login to get logged in. These are the call queues. These are an advanced version of the groups. Look in the show notes. You'll see the ACD QUEUES Pro demo, which will show you what that's all about. But again, it's a much more advanced version of groups. So if you don't like how that group's interface is working for you, or your staff is complaining, then you'd want to look at the call center and you'd want to talk to our account services team about that. Next up, we have the dynamic caller ID. This is an add-on feature. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID of your VoIP phones. Typically, the easiest way is via area code, but I'll refer to the show notes and the documentation in the support pages. Excuse me. Faxes is your fax manager. This shows you the status of your faxes. You can see inbound faxes to see what's come in. You can go to outbound faxes to see what's been sent out. If there's a failure, mouse over it, and you'll see the reasonings why. And this means if there's a failure here, that means we had a problem with the other phone number in some fashion. Email to fax logs. If there's anything here, we had a problem processing that request. And you click on the little eyeball icon at the far right, and that will give you the error. Right? In this case, no valid attachment. All right, SMS registration. This is what you need to go through if you want to make use of texting. Definitely read through this first page. The second page is where you would start the registration, which is just a little further down. And then registration status would show you the current status of the registration. There is a one-time setup fee of $99. Again, definitely review these instructions. There's also a link to the relevant support pages. You can also go in our YouTube channel and see some videos that we have about SMS registration. Webhooks is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to link Dash to other software, i.e., if you look in the show notes, there's the introduction to Zapier webinar, which covers some of webhooks. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code of what we've done. And then lastly, we have the user portal. Every user has access to their own user portal. This is where they can see their voicemail, right? So they can check it, they can play it back down here, they can download the file, they can change the status. The call history, they can see their own call history and they can go back in time to do so. The fax tab only works if they have their own fax box, but they would see their fax history. The contact list, this shows everything on the Dash account, right? It's used, basically helps them transfer calls. They can also see feature codes here. Conference tab, this is only useful for users that have a conference feature enabled. Here, they can update their moderator and participant PIN numbers. These numbers should be different from each other. They can choose that people join muted or deafened or entry and exit tones. They can invite other Dash users to the conference. They can lock a conference, mute everybody, unmute everybody, or hang up the conference call. And then settings and devices. Right here, this is where users can enable call forwarding on their own. They just put a check mark here, +1 area code and phone number, and save. Right now I'm call forwarding. When I'm done, I just come back here, uncheck it, and click save again. All right, and that is everything. I haven't seen any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end the training. I thank you for your time today. We'll be back next Tuesday at 10 a.m.